Good morning. Yesterday, I was saying, having questioned some of my beliefs. For example, the belief that security, that the price of aestheticism, which is security and comfort, the price of this was boredom. But I said this is not true. This is only true if you sit with your finger in your ass and you stop moving forward. Like you just sit in front of the TV watching mind-numbing television, wondering why am I suffering? Why am I depressed? Why am I fucking this and that? You stop working on yourself, but you hand over yourself to some bullshit Peterson or somebody to tell you what's wrong with you or put a label on you and then give you some medication. This is the problem. But then I also said I also said yesterday that Kierkegaard said that the first choice that a man has to make is either the aesthetic man or the ethical man. And this is not true either. Kierkegaard was a Christian philosopher. Well, he liked to preach Christianity, not as the church preached Christianity, but his breakdown and interpretation of Christianity. But this is not true. Basically, someone posted a post yesterday in one of the Facebook groups, but I'm sort of sick of these Facebook groups now because they're just becoming reoccurring questions. Like, for example, yesterday was about, about Lebitz, I think that's his name, I never heard his name pronounced, Lebitz writing a book trying to conflate philosophy and religion, which can't really be done. Because as I said, religion is an ethical doctrine and philosophy is not supposed to be. But what they're trying to do now is they're trying to take Buddhism and Stoicism and make them into ethical doctrines, which in turn makes them a religion, which makes them a religion where you're imposing your morality on everybody and you're not encouraging people to think for themselves and to establish their own morality and to find their own morality and think about what's right and what's wrong. You're not encouraging them to think and to question their own morals, but not go imposing them on everybody else, virtue signalling. Like I was going to come on and was I don't agree with the inhumane farming of animals. So therefore I'll eat less meat, possibly until such time as I have money to buy organic meat. But when I can buy organic meat, then I might eat more meat. But I'm not going to promote the excessive consumption of eggs and meat. But this is my morality. What I'll do now, that's subject to change. But another thing then I want to say is I think it's completely unethical and completely immoral. You buy these for $2.70 here in this country, and in Ireland it's I think €14.50. I think that's completely unethical and immoral. We're both two countries in the EU. We're both in the EU, but one taxes the cigarettes to such an extent, like you can buy them for $2.70 here, and they're taxed to such an extent that they're $14.50 in Ireland. And then people who buy the cigarettes, most of them are already paying 50% of their wages in tax. So they pay 50% in their wages in tax, and then go out and pay a levy as heavy as that on a product such as a packet of cigarettes. The same then on drink. And then of course they ban all other drugs and give global corporations a complete monopoly on drugs. Now, for example, like when it comes to one's own ethics, then when one has to question their own morality, I'd have absolutely no problem. If it was my role to run cigarettes, I'd have no problem running cigarettes, and I wouldn't bother my conscience, not in the fucking least. And I wouldn't do it for the money either. I'd do it to fucking oppose the tyranny of the state. Because they do this, and then they make the excuse. They make the excuse that, it's for health benefits. It's for health benefits. I don't think the hospitals could handle the strain if we didn't tax the shite out of cigarettes and the drink. And that's complete bollocks. Absolute bollocks. While at the same time, they give a license to the likes of global corporations such as McDonald's to fucking poison every child in the country, because that's what McDonald's is pure poison. And then they bring the likes of me to court and tell me what I shouldn't be put into my body. And the fucking children eating pure poison up in McDonald's, up in the middle of the square, with license from the government. And Now that's just on because that's what that food is, and all those global corporations' food is pure poison. Then I went to a fair yesterday and I saw lads rolling big cotton candy, big sticks of cotton candy, this fucking size. And it's just, good Christ, how is the child going to assimilate that much sugar? How is the child going to be able to consume that much sugar? How is it going to be able to assimilate that much sugar? Like, and then they wonder the amount of sugar that they're handing the child on a stick. I honestly, I was shocked, appalled. But yet this, why don't they tax the shit out of cotton candy? Or why don't they stop this? Or why don't they impose their morality on this? Because this is an easy target and big money in it. That's just greed and tyranny. But where do you stop imposing this tax and imposing your morality? And that's why I say, like, you know, it'd be against my morals. For example, I wouldn't sell Adderall, I wouldn't sell Ritalin, I wouldn't sell D10s, I wouldn't sell Prozac, I wouldn't sell Xanax, because that's against my morals. I think it'd be just wrong to sell these and to profit on other people's misery, because I just think it'd be all wrong for me to sell these. And D10s are highly addictive. They're worse than heroin. And then at the same time, you give these companies a complete monopoly, because while they're allowed to advertise their products and distribute their products, then there's in order to protect their monopoly, you're not allowed to say things like lion's mane is very effective for treating bipolar. Lion's mane and 369 is very effective for treating bipolar. You're not allowed to say that you need a minimum of 5% THC in CBD in oil in order to treat epilepsy. I was reading now about Charlotte's Web and have it down to 1%, but you need 5%. I'll tell you now, for epilepsy and things like this, you need 5%. But you're not allowed to say this. You're not allowed to say this. What else are you not allowed to say? You're not allowed to say that Rick Simpson oil is particularly effective for treating brain cancer. You're not allowed to say, I would be allowed to say that Dennis McKenna treated his mother and treated breast cancer in 8 weeks using turkey tail mushroom capsules. I would be allowed to say that because he's allowed to say it. He did treat his mother using turkey tail mushrooms, and he will give you a full breakdown on how the turkey tail mushrooms work in breaking down these. But of course, people don't want to use reason. As I said to one fellow who suffered with brain cancer, but your eye was suggested, I say, you pray to God and give 2 fingers to nature. So how does that make any sense? But of course, people then want to impose their morality on nature. That's what I was looking at then yesterday, the same bullshit they were saying about conflating religion and philosophy, but the same bullshit then about believing in God. And I seen Richard Attenborough then said about, I'm very surprised that coming from him, saying how it's very hard to believe in the existence of God when you see a worm boring through the eye of a small child in Africa. And how can God allow such evil in the world and everything else? But yet to inhumanely farm animals and slaughter them in an inhumane manner, that's not evil at all, is it? That's not evil at all. It's only evil when it's done to us, because we can't see past ourselves as a collective. It's only evil when it's done to us. Of course, it's not evil that we poison rats. But of course, well, I consider it is evil that this is why mind does to us what we do to others. So this is why, if you seek to understand how can God allow McDonald's to exist, well, we do it. Like, all nature cannibalizes itself. We do it to rats and we do it to lower animals. So this is why we have the likes of McDonald's allowed to poison us as well, because that's what it is poison. But of course, that's grand, because we're too stupid to even question what we put into our mouth. Well, now it's all. I don't eat McDonald's. Saying that their coffee, I used to drink their coffee and I used to use their toilets. And there's good in every bad, because the management training is very good as well. What else do I think is immoral? Yeah, the whole fucking imposing of morality, but yet, for example, the Christian, thou shalt not kill, but yet will grant absolution for all your sins if you come to kill people in the Holy War, 1094. It was the Pope granting absolution. Yeah, he just decided to take it on himself and grant absolution for a holy war, with motivated by two things. Fear and greed is the two big motivators in humanity. Fear and greed. Do you see this on the front of the cigarettes, inciting fear in everybody? Now, if we were to go with the whole thing of how you manifest your fears, because let me tell you, like, if you have a certain role, nature will you will have to face every fear, and nature will give you the opportunity to overcome every fear. And then it's a matter of adapt and overcome, or collapse or fall. This is what separates the wheat from the chaff. But see the likes of this inciting fear. What does that do? Only manifest these conditions that make people shit their pants. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, I better stop smoking. So now I have more stress. I'm afraid I'm going to die, so I'll smoke more. You know what I mean? This is immoral. But yeah, when it comes to imposing your morality, so basically, I'll decide what's right and I'll decide what's wrong in relation to myself. That's another thing I'm not allowed to say as well. I have an idea for curing Lyme's disease, but I need a guinea pig because I don't have Lyme's disease myself at the moment. But I need a guinea pig, and once I trial that, because people have to be afraid, not afraid to try different things, and stop handing over a monopoly to these fuckers. Because, like, for example, for Lyme's disease, the only known cure at the moment is buckets of antibiotics, and antibiotics will completely destroy you. They destroy all your intestinal, they destroy all your gut, all the good bacteria, destroy all your hormones, everything. The age is shocking. Like, I met a lad recently with Lyme disease, and I was trying to say to him, like, I was trying to suggest to him an alternative method for treating his Lyme disease, but of course he was having none of it, because what am I? Like, I'm the cleaner of the toilets. What would I know? I'm only the devil, like. People have to be able, to start removing your head from your arse and realise what's going on here. That you're being exploited to bits. I remember, well, I have a brother who has cystic fibrosis, and at one point he was getting close to the edge, Got a heart and lung transplant since, but he was getting close to the edge, and they brought out this new drug. To prolong the life of CF patients. But it was extremely expensive. And you know why it was so expensive? It was so expensive because the state were paying for it. The state will pay for it. And this is why, this is complete bullshit and exploitation, that the state pay for it. The state pay for the methadone. The state pay for all these global corporations. And the whole thing is just a big fucking scam. But they kept saying to him, he was part of the clinical trials, and they kept coming to him every day and tried to put words in his mouth and tried to incite fear in him about the longevity of his life and how these will prolong his life. So, but just the whole thing was just fear and greed, trying to incite fear in him. But no way would he back down. He was saying, no, these drugs make me feel like shit. I can't see any quality in any point in trying to prolong a life when I feel like shit in these fucking things. I feel like shit on him. And they tried to convince him otherwise, but he was having none of it. And the whole thing was motivated by greed. They didn't want to listen to him. All they wanted to do was push this through because the state would pay for it, and it was horrendously expensive. But they wanted to just push through that because the state would then pay for this medicine for every CF patient. And this is just CF. Can you imagine all the companies that are exploiting this, that the state will pay for the drugs? The state will pay for the drugs. That's your fucking money. But at the same time suppressing any knowledge or information about natural remedies or natural cures. Suppressing any and saying, no, they haven't done the clinical trials, and fuck you and your clinical trials. But it's up to everybody to start doing their own trials. I used to make my own steroids, and I go on about the price of producing these compounds. Why would it be so expensive to produce these compounds? I used to buy my own powders out of China, make my own steroids, extract my own DMT, my own little lab in the kitchen. People will have to start removing their head from their arse. Start thinking for yourself. Start trying to treat yourself. As Heraclitus said, everybody ought to become their own doctor. Start thinking for yourself. Good morning.